for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumine, beloved divine.
So hello there everyone, and welcome to this video with me here today. I wanted to bring you here next to this beautiful waterfall we have here. So luckily I still have my freedom of movement, and it was really difficult to set up a camera in a way that it's able to record the waterfall and me at the same time. I hope I made it happen because you don't know if you're doing it yourself, so let's hope for the best. Anyway, I wanted to continue the conversations we've been having for the past few weeks. I want to do a little recap, but before I do so and we start today's topic, I wanted to also invite you to read my blog because it talks about our current experience, the completion of a certain cycle for especially volunteer souls and planetary light servers, star beings, light workers, whatever you call yourself to be. My path, as you know, is the path of cosmic Christ and physical ascension through lumen union, and of course the essence of cosmic Christ. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on, and everything I share is in relation to that. So read my blog, and if you're a Patreon, I recently recorded this beautiful meditation light activation together with light beings in this beautiful circle of light, and people who've been doing it, they were really satisfied. They had interesting feedback to share, some of them. And it's also available under downloads on my webpage if you're interested. But either way, you can meditate yourself in the way you're guided. Specifically, I have already shared with you, call in the component of our light team, the galactic family of light, because we're in this together. This is no longer, as I'm being told, my mission, your mission, this mission, that mission. This is our mission. This is that time, So we will now focus on talking about what is specific mission for those of us on the path of Christ. Because as you know, this planet has so many types of diversities of different beings, different agendas, all of that. We're going to specifically touch the subject, of course, as the Christed lineage and those who are here walking this path. If that resonates with you, it's not a religious term, truly. The Christos is, in truth, in the light of creation, connecting with the crystalline essence, and that crystalline essence actually opens a doorway. It's like a magical rainbow doorway in a way that leads us into the light body consciousness and how to use it, and I'm going to be talking about that more in times to come. But I do want to specify again that be very careful in discerning what you're receiving and what you're giving your energy focus to at this time, because it's vitally important you're saving this energy for the mission that we are here to do and walk through. So remember the waterfall behind us today. It's the reinvigoration and invitation into the sacred life force path, which is not just the mastery over your life force in terms of receiving it, but also how you disperse it, right? How you use it, what you will actually give your focus to, your attention. This is becoming very much such an important and crucial component of our path. So yeah, that's the beginning for today. That's a little bit of that introduction. The topic today is, how do we actually act as the unified body of the Christ here on earth in terms of amplifying our inner work? Because I was noticing now this time specifically, as you know, everyone now on the planet is experiencing this, what many call planetary evolution. Some people call it planetary crisis. And many people also call it the end of days, or the doomsday, the darkness, collapse of everything. It is what it is, and each individual consciousness will perceive it differently because it's being perceived through what we've established within ourselves, especially during the last few years since 2012, when this was first instigated, as you know. What's coming to the forefront now is the objective of that alignment. We've been talking about that, so I want to do a little bit of that recap. We've talked about creation cycles, right, and the evolutionary aspect of that. We've talked about this layering of reality, that reality is truly layered and it has several components to it, and how to attune to it neutrally, because we're going to get to that today in the mission of the Christ, and how the Christ needs to act as an agent of change, as the most beneficial agent of change in these times. So that's very important. And we've talked also about how our bodies are the most essential, vital component of the mission now. It's what we embody, it's how we embody it, it's what we give our focus to within the benevolence and neutrality of Christ, or the cosmic Christos essence. So for the people who this is still foreign to, right, and they don't know what it means, it's usually going to take some work to move through their inner healing aspects, and that's why now everyone is stepping up, doing their, healing aspect and offering their services at large, and people doing these group meditations, not just individual work. This is not a time, as you know, to make fast, easy money, and on the behalf of people who are finding themselves in even deeper turbulence and crisis, of course. This is a time to spread our light even wider, but in a cautious, determined, focused way, that takes discipline to truly act as an agent of Christ. So we did a little recap here. Now I want to mention that this is really a time when we're needing to apply the teaching tools, the knowledge, everything that came through us. And the most important factor of life lived through experience is those of you who will be sharing at these times knowledge through your own experience. I've been doing this for years. Everything I've experienced, I was able to synthesize, I was able to integrate, and therefore share with others, because it was a wisdom through which you walk through. You need to walk through as an experience, because that's truly a teaching beyond any other. It's not learned from books, from others, right? There's now different agents of change on this planet. There's people who are informing others. There's people who are whistleblowers, as you know. There's people who are passing on different documents. There's people who are taking care of that the darkest aspects are coming to the light, or, we talk about different agendas, things coming to the surface, things being underground, they're developing. There's different fractions now competing, So a very important part of these changes to come for us who are the most conscious at this time, conscious embodiments on earth, is also to bring the knowledge that not just a replacement of something that collapses or crashes will be an automatic something for the better, right? Because we need to know that if one system replaces the other one, it doesn't necessarily mean that system is just and how it's a sovereign system. So as humans, people will have to become very aware, attuned to the reality of what's replacing what, because even with the crashes and collapses, it doesn't mean that automatically things will be brought to this resurgence within a system that is just for all. If it's still system, if it still stinks, it's still a system. Because there's very infractions of groups that are competing for what's now taking place. They're competing for the dominance of the system that will be the new predetermined system, because as you know, ages are shifting at this time. We have a new coming of the age, and there's still fractions of different groups that, as you know, relate to stellar and galactic groups' origin. They're still in competing of who will be the most influential component, and we all have our input. But don't forget the input of the light families, of the Christed lineage, those who serve the golden Christ Son essence. We've had the most benevolent impact, and there were so many orchestrations of light through eons of time, and it's been through this consistent changes in the application of light quotient rising, and we've talked about the seed of Illumination being planted on earth. There's been so much. And yet now, at the same time, those of you who are becoming aware, you're remembering that perhaps you've been preparing lifetimes for this. Many of you have been. And you're now starting to feel the rise of this inner fire. Talk to people. A lot of people are feeling this now. They're not just feeling this push to go within, because what's happening at the same time, we're each guided to finish this cycle, while concurrently we're also instigating a new one. It's a difficult task. It's quite of that entanglement, like the two of coins, right? You're juggling, and at the same time you're not juggling, you're just passing on that which you learned into the new cycle. We're taking a stand, we're doing a little bit of that retrospective journey of what we're taking with us. But it's like, it feels now at this time of the pause, which is not truly a pause, right? It's a resurgence of something, and behind the scenes much is happening within that, as we already talked about this. But it's like everyone is now called to finish something up, something that maybe they were saying for years they're going to do, or something that just completes something we've been working on. I was working on this resurrection essence configuration, and my group Light Family have been doing this to me, and I'm going to talk about this in the next videos though, but it's been like this institution of the application of the new light body configurations. These are new. I'm being told this never happened before. These aspects never entered the human bodies before. And when they're being wired into this body, it's like a whole new reconfiguration needs to take place. And that's why I'm now stepping up in my own way. And I needed to finish certain aspects of the old template, and they were very much coming to the surface through different aspects of my body and ascension symptoms. So it's been quite a challenging path for me in the past few months. And even though I was coming up here, showing up, sharing with you at the same time when I experienced tremendous body aches and pains, and the journey hasn't been as difficult as in the last 6 months. So we're all in that period, finding ourselves, just connect in, tune within. What is that for you? Because it will also be instantly an instigator of the change that's to come, and an indication of your mission to come. I actually received something that I never shared with anyone before. This was last year on my birthday in September. I was meditating at the end of the day when the sun was coming down, and it was actually these words started to sing themselves through my mind. And it was this song that we know from the movie called V for Vendetta, right? The V, the masked anonymous, right? Inspiration. And the song, the verse, very known from this poem that dealt with this plot, conspiracy, right? It goes back to the 1600s, I believe. And it says, remember the 5th of November. And that kept on playing. And first I thought it has to do something with the month of November, but it didn't. And then later I realized it has to do with this, right? Because if you know the movie, it also relates to, if you ever read The Prism of Lyra, that book, it talks about the Orion constellation, and many of us were there at the time of the deepest, darkest aspects of that planetary evolution. Several fractions were developed. Sorry everyone, so I had to switch the camera because it kept moving and falling off. It is what it is. So you've seen a little bit of the waterfall, so now let us continue. I was saying that in the Prism of Lyra, there's this description of what happened in the Orion constellation in terms of what break through the status quo, what break through those shadow governments, and, what we now know as the cabal or the deep state, or the elite, and all those different fractions of it. And it only took one being who, we would now on earth call the Messiah. And we have still this Messiah complex. But in truth, for me, what this means is that it only takes a seed, right, to start off a very powerful movement. It's not about the numbers. It's about the essence of the Christ. So for me, that's something that Spirit wanted me to bring up again, because that seed was planted. It was planted also in the root core of the planetary template herself. So the planet has the mission. The planet has received the impulse. The planet is connected. The planet is fine. Now it's the people who need to be brought into a deeper alignment, not just with the events and what's happening and who's getting a hit and who isn't and what's truly behind it all. Because again, there's still so many competing beliefs. And what Spirit wanted to tell me and to tell you is that when we get like this, we get into our own inner conflict, right? We get into a mental state, and we're trying to get into that pre-vision state, right? But what Spirit is saying is that we can't mentally go through this. We can't mentally predetermine what's happening just to feel safe, just to feel good about what's actually going to take place. We will have to go through the experience itself, because it's the experience that always synthesizes the wisdom. There is no other way, right? And remember, the seed of life is connecting all the stations of life, and we might relate it to different star origins or star systems. There's different constellations, we would say, but it's also planetary based. And whenever there is something already written in the sphere of that, let's call it the collective field or that Akashic field, and in the fine print, it starts to influence and beam out into all the other systems. And that's what took place also as that which was carried here to this planet and this plane of existence. So the seed is there, and it's just traveling. So there's beings who carry this essence of Christ, and they're traveling from one system to the other to bring about that change. And There are several of the direct Christ lineage that's galactic, that's not of earth origin. There's some of us who've never been here before even, but there's beings who are very ancient light workers that came before, that came to prepare the ground. So it's basically a unanimous mission of the Christ. It's like planting and nurturing and cultivating and resurrecting that seed of the Christ. And it's beautiful how this year again, this unfolding is around this Eastern timeline, right? We all know that Easter is archetypally representative of this Christ resurrection. So it's like a trinity of action now on earth is the ancient light workers who've been here since the dawning of times, preparing the field, right? Working from within. There's beings who are volunteer souls who perhaps have never been here before. They were always operating from different levels of life and creation. And then there's light beings who do not incarnate, but at this time they're serving from the other planes, right? So this is again a trilogy of light, like everything is. And again, Spirit wants me to talk about our mission, specifically the mission of the Christ is to bring that light of illumination to the worlds of creation. That's my mission as well. And I have that written specifically as a statement on my webpage, Serapina Light, because that's the idea. It's operating from the Illumination aspect, and then at the core level, really anchoring deeply into every aspect of life, and then taking care of the self through that essence, and also having the deepest faith, that miraculous unfolding that we don't always see all aspects of. There's a bigger picture. I always keep saying that. And when we get into one aspect of reality, we get bombarded with aspects of only that reality. But we always have to constantly remember there's just one aspect, always returning back to the Christ heart. Unanimously, right, in that deep alignment. Always bringing that back. So a part of my mission, I'll tell you one example, is sometimes Spirit will guide me to do a research on something that's truly deeply dark. Sometimes that will be satanic aspects. I haven't shared this with you, but the entire year for me, 2019, only those who are my group on Patreon and so forth, they know about that because it was the topic of the entire videos last year. Last year, I was getting so deeply into the essence understanding of Lucifer and the falling aspects, and just really going into how that battle feels like, and then transcending that aspect of duality, which is constant battle, which we can't endure as humans. We just, as humans can't. But there's a light aspect of us that can, those of us who come from those aspects as well. So remember always that the mission we're tending to here on Earth is just as important as those galactic aspects that are tending to the galactic aspects. Like sometimes we call those aspects extraterrestrial influences, the fallen gods, the influencers we know as these deities or demigods. But there's aspects of life that are dealing with that. Like there's aspects of life that are dealing with what's happening on the underground, right? And some of the very deeply hidden things that, of course, also now are coming to light. That's where we're also here. But those of us who are with the mission of Christ on earth is to keep the presence of that ultimate unconditional devotion to that love of the Christ, no matter what. So in my recent example, because like I said, Spirit will often guide me to something, to dive deep into something that's very dark. And just recently I did this research on, somehow it appeared in my field, and that time it's like I can't do anything about it. I'm hypnotized by it, just entrances me in. And it was about this drug, called adrenochrome, and how it's made and synthesized through torture of children, and why, it's connected with the disappearance of thousands and thousands of children over the world. And, how this is produced and how the elite is getting revitalized through that. This relates again to the movie we know as the Jupiter Ascending. They're shown there how they synthesize this vitality from people, how they're harvesting their essence. So it's all, it can go as deep as you want. There's a lot of things that are so deeply dark and disturbed that, a normal human can take that. And there's a lot of resistance to that. And we get so much in fear mode. So when we resist and we go only to that, no, it must not be true. Let's all go into the light and forget it even exists because it doesn't concern us. If I just wish it away or forget about it, it won't exist in the mind, but it still exists, So those of us who are truly here to embody the Christ mission is you will walk into the essence of something deeply dark and then hold the space of the deepest love and compassion for that aspect. Like there won't be any aspect of judgment present anymore, because a lot of the light workers, they're always sending light to the victims, to people who were victimized, through their perpetrators. Let's say they were molested and abused, and even ritualistically, satanically abused, and they're just always just sending light, and the rest doesn't concern them. But the Christ embodiment, of course, you can go out there and save everyone, like physically, but what the Christ does is it creates sacred spaces of Christed purity that are able to, through life force impulses, rejuvenate any aspect of life, no matter how distorted or deeply wounded it has been. So this is the way I do this work. And in this instance, in this example, just recently, what I did when I did this research, a part of me was like, oh my gosh, and I had to stay neutral. And it was just like inviting more of the Christ to do this work through me. And in the end, I realized I'm not just here to hold compassion for those who were victims of this, but also those who still participate in those levels of abuse, and those who maybe are the ones who are partaking in this drug, and what symptoms are now developing, because there was this news how this got infected, and now there's like these elites and celebrities going insane and all these things. We don't know what's true, but when you tune into something, you will feel compassion even for those aspects. And even though it's true that everyone, since the beginning of their life in creation, because life doesn't begin here on earth, life begins when you're first created, right, as an individual essence and individual soul aspect that's reaching towards ultimate soul growth. There's a vying for either the dark or the light. And recently there's this beautiful video from a person I know. I've already recommended her work to you. Her name is Susan Ashley. She's from Australia, but she lives in Europe now. And I recommended her channel to you. I'm really making an effort to increase her channel views, because I really think her content is just amazing. I love watching her content because she goes into aspects that, are just her own, and she's a beautiful healer. And she recently made this long video about these abuses and how to actually assist in those cases, and how do these demonic forces and operate, right? And how do they vie for our own light to make a choice? And this is now so deeply present on earth, and it's something that I always say it should be talked about and portrayed on every billboard, right? But it's not, as you know. And channels like this, and even channels like mine, who go so deeply into the nature of truth as it is, without any sugarcoating, are usually not as popular. So I'd really ask all of you who are watching my videos and making a conscious contribution to, just like showing up and watching, please do make an attempt to also subscribe to her channel. It's called Susan and Cassandra. Those are the aspects of being. She also channels a group complex, and it's spelled with a K and a double S. So please make your research. I'm sure you will love, because she also made a lot of ET videos through her own experiences, and she's one of the rare people I see who also talks about all that she perceives through her own experience, not from the outside. And it's the same way I operate, as you well know. So I'm trying to spread the network of light to make us more connected, because every one of us, remember, we hold aspects to this mission that are unique. Like, I won't talk about the things that I don't directly receive as my impulses from within. So I would rather recommend someone who does. Then I'm not here to repeat what they're saying. No one is, right? So please make that effort. I'm really here to make that conscious contribution. And beautiful being, Susan and Cassandra. So anyway, that's that. And so going back to our topic, it is so important, because so much is coming to the light now, as you well know. And that means it's not meant to just be there, stay there, and that's okay. But it takes an amount of light quotient through those conscious Christ embodiments, like we are, those on this path, that will hold that. We need to hold these aspects, because there's healers who are perhaps directly working with the people who are involved, but there's also those of us who work within a more essence component. And it's really important for us. Some of you might be meditators, some of you might do martial arts, I don't know, but it's the way you show up in your own self-discipline that develops your internal ability to be able to hold aspects within their essence, because within an essence things truly transform. There's like levels of healing, but there is something that I will be talking about this month specifically on Patreon called the mystical nature of healing. And physical ascension is like the art of mystery of mysteries. and that component. That's why it's so difficult. And what's happening now within our bodies, those of us who are the way showers to this physical ascension process and alignment with the new golden sun, like before our bodies were actually distorted, they were configured to not align 100% in complete alignment with this golden solar Christos sun, right? So even though we might have our consciousness fixed on that, and there's a lot of us reading about it and thinking about it and contemplating about it, but it's like our bodies need to reconfigure to that as well. That's the most important part of physical ascension. It's like the body was so calculated into an aspect of the domain that was held for eons of time within a certain construct of a template with a certain density and specific configurations that belong to something that didn't feed the truth of the human being, a light being, and capable of using all of the gifts that are actually a part of the light body's organic technology. So I'll be teaching that this month on Patreon, because I'm actually experiencing it right as we speak, right? So I'll share more when I share already on Patreon and when this is done, when this is shared. But for now, I want to again reiterate and re-emphasize those most important aspects of us being here present right now. First, knowing that you're a sovereign being, you're free, even if you feel, well, I can't go outside right now, because there's people in the countries now that are prohibiting people to actually go outside, because it doesn't make any sense. You can't catch a virus in nature. You can't do anything like that. And a lot of it, the way it's portrayed is 100 times, 1,000 times overemphasized and exaggerated, as you know. And it has a specific purpose to it. And there's, again, a multi-layered reality behind it all that's driving this force of life forward. But again, you know, when you remember you're a free sovereign being, nothing will be able to override that. Your own inner Christ intelligence is beyond anything. Go to it as your inner resource and reservoir of your life force, vitality, complete coherence within your bodies, sustaining your physicality, and then not giving and sharing your life force with anything that would take not just your time and focus, but it would actually take the liquid light quotient that we need now to hold this space and like redistribute it somewhere else where it's not as necessary. Remember, again, the basic teaching of Spirit's life force, that's the Holy Spirit statement, is that the life force that's encoded through the intelligence of Spirit always travels and moves towards its highest potential, and that's how light beings operate. And I would say the next important aspect is this connectivity we've talked about, engaging with each other, those who understand a deeper meaning of this mission, a deeper call. Their sacred hearts, their flames are activated. So I'm doing this prayer also about this and the miracle nature of connecting within the Christed aspect of our being and with light beings. I'm going to do it on Patreon as well. But the next important thing I really also want to mention is the invaluable meaning and importance of connecting and developing your own personal relationship with the Master who's been here as the one who's initiated this age that's now ending before dawning of a new one. And we all know him as Jesus the Christ or Joshua the Christ, whatever you wish to call him. He does not go by religion. He's not the Christ of the religion, which, as Susan very beautifully stated in her video, so again, watch the video. It's not the Christ shown by religion, which is their statement: if you're a pure being, that's what we're going to do to you, right? We're going to nail you to the cross, and we're going to kill you, and we're going to torture you. So that's that. And as you know, they've been persecuting the Holy Grail lineage since forever, because they do know of our power. Okay, so when you develop your personal relationship with Jesus, this has nothing to do with religion. That has to do with your faith. That has to do with the fact that he is the bridge. Like for me, personally, when I started connecting with him more was when I had these issues that I've shared with you last year. It was the last 1/4 of the journey of physical ascension that I feel I'm still undergoing in a way. But he was the most vital component of that process, because he acted as a bridge for this compassionate level I needed to achieve for myself, for my physicality, for my human self. And he's walked this path in a different way, right? When he was incarnate, we didn't have the mission we have now in terms of how far physical ascension can go in this lifetime, in this cycle of Earth's evolutionary process and human evolution. But he was the instigator, he was the avatar of that age. And now for us to not just await a Messiah to return again, but develop the interconnection with him and with our own higher self and our oversoul component, it takes, again, it's like this divine trinity. I always feel it since I started this connection more intensely in the last year or so. I felt it like there's me and my higher self, and then there's Jesus the Christ, and then there's my oversoul. And for me, he acted like this bridge towards and between my also oversoul component, because my group, my oversoul group, is very advanced. And even I sometimes I'm like, what the heck, you know? And I didn't need at that time of intense physical changes that were a result of this ascension, just there, like this light encoded messages, it was sometimes too much. I needed that component, I needed the bridge, and he was that bridge, and he still is. And that's why people often misinterpret that, because they say through religion he's the only way and only through him you can go to God, and that's not the truth. But he is an important bridge to ascension, because he carried out a mission of the way, showing that a lot of us are now completing in this lifetime. That's why he is the bridge to the other side. And when I was meditating with him, and we had interesting and deep transmissions in these last few months, or over a year probably, yeah, it's been more. It was just tremendously enriching and fulfilling. And it's not at all that Jesus is portrayed to us as this fictional astral being that is actually a cover-up. It's made up. It's just another artificial intelligence. That's why it's the most important thing is for you to develop your own personal relationship. And one of my gifts is to record and do channel these beautiful light activations that I hope to do more now. And this is my way of stepping up in a new way that's more authentic to me as well. And I will continue to do that. And if you're ever called to also step up as well and join the group, you're always welcome. I will not continuously repeat that in a way to, it's like make it in a way, advertise myself, but just make an offering, because there's always new people coming in and they don't watch all the videos because there's too many of them. But I will also always act in a way, in a unifying circle, that there's aspects that I don't do with or deal with that are not so much of my domain, and that's when I refer others. And this is why I recommended Susan's channel. And I know it's very much aligned with truth, very respectful and deeply compassionate and heart-centered. So on that note, those are some of the most important aspects, because in my own experience, what and how beloved Jesus, I prefer saying Joshua, but people still know more of that name, what he was able to hold, like I said again, is that bridge. And it was truly what we say, he's the brother, he's like a companion, a friend. He's not someone to be worshipped. And that's where people go off the stray, and that's the false ascension. That's not a true ascension. False ascension that was put into a program into the matrix is continuously making you believe that there's like these steps and steps of ascension, that it's like an infinite ladder to God. It's like you're never going to arrive, but we've always been there. We originate from there. It's just a development of soul. And when the soul is developing through lifetimes, but also different stations of life, like different systems, like different star systems and origins, the soul will move through several aspects of knowing of itself, of its nature, and the nature of cosmic life in cosmos, and becoming more and more aligned with what we call the cosmic Christ, or the souls who diverge from that and they actually digress. They will create more and more of this path of what's it called, aggression? No, but it's actually a regressive path. They will not progress in that direction towards Holy Spirit alignment and Christos, but they will actually create aspects that are more fallen aspects. And they, of course, on their path will try to entrench more and more of those on their path. Like light is always at the same time advocating for itself, but not in a way that would ever be manipulative, because light just shows itself always within truth. Truth knows itself. Truth can be nothing always but just the truth. While the shadow operates in a way that's covert and hidden, and it will perhaps say something, but behind that will be totally a different agenda and meaning. So that's why now things are so divergent in terms of the planetary events. So don't fall for everything you hear, because remember, there's still forces competing for your vital life essence and for your vote. It's like the biggest election on earth has begun, you know? And it's like your ticket, your voice is your soul alignment, your soul essence, and the vitality you bring forth your own life force choices, whether you choose to align with the purity of spirit and the path of natural organic ascension and your evolution within Christ, or you choose to pursue the darkness through fear, agendas, cover-ups. You know, there's so much. And that's why I think videos like that, talking about darkness, satanic influences and beyond, you know, and Susan made a great video about this. And I don't want to talk about this myself because it's already there, it's already out there. That's an important component, knowing what is our conscious contribution, and then sharing with others who make their own, creating a network of light, being advocates for this, and knowing that at the same time there's a bigger plan unfolding, trusting that the power of faith no matter what, will lead us through the experience within grace. If at any time we feel we're going to stop and say, oh, it's so uncomfortable, I don't want to go forward because I don't know what's there, it's very much similar than the aspect of the mystical healing, is you can't heal your body, yourself, if there will be even one aspect of you that won't believe in this healing and will constantly question it, because first it will need validation and proof of what's even wrong with you. And there are certain aspects in our body and certain pains and symptoms that are very mystical. We can't always explain them rationally. Like, why is this so? There's aspects that we can easily explain, like I fall, I break an ankle, I know what's wrong with me. But there's aspects that are now people are experiencing through these symptoms that can't always be put into a record, right? Your medical record that's very obvious and self-evident. And these aspects, when they're mystical, they can only be healed that way. And that's what Jesus was teaching at the beginning of his era, which was the power of faith. So this month on Patreon, I'm going to talk about this, the mystical healing, and the queen of all queens of that, which is physical ascension, which is still in a way so new on this planet. It's the same time as planet is birthing this herself, we are within our own light body alignments and configurations. So this will be this month's focus. April will be quite an interesting month. April's Fool's Day. Well, the whole stage now is one giant fool. And as you know, there's a lot of the trickster energy present at the same time. But we need to remember, what is the mission of the Christ? We don't have to get entangled into every news source, constantly coming back to that replenishing center where the Christ has its home, right? And at the same time developing this personal relationship and cultivating it. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the scenery. Remember, it only takes a seed. It only takes a seed. And I'm taking some time off now because I'm in the midst of a very intense process. Again, this will be shared in my transmission this month, which will be about how to use the light body's technology, because it has to be used. It isn't just self-obvious. I'm going through this process myself, and I'm a student as I'm going through it, the same way that then I pass it on. So we're always students and teachers at the same time. Remember that. And until then, when this is ready and when I talk to you again, have a beautiful time. Keep on your prayers, you know, keep your prayers close to your heart. Keep your friends even closer, those you love. Love all the world, love the planet and all of her changes. Love nature, nature loves you. And let's all say it together today with so much love, wisdom, and power. As always, goodbye for now.
Magical.